The Jedi justify their galactic dominance in the name of peace.
This is The Acolyte. This is from the Star Wars universe. This is a streaming, it looks like 8-episode season on Disney Plus. This is taking place during the time of the prequels era. This is like the High Republic era, and the Jedi are sort of at peak strength. But the dark side is rising. And this is a show that has Amandla Stenberg. The other lead actress was Dafne from Wolverine, or no, sorry, Logan.
Yeah, Logan.
Not Wolverine. She was a little girl in Logan. Amazing looking cast. Carrie-Anne also in this film. Joonas, I can't pronounce his last name, but the guy who played Chewbacca in the Chewbacca suit in the last couple of Star Wars films.
Yeah, I think he's another Wookiee in this
film. Yeah. So pretty deep cast. Tell me a little bit about The Acolyte.
Yeah, so The Acolyte I think is very interesting because for me, this is kind of like, okay, what can Disney Star Wars really be in a way? Because we've had these Disney Plus live action series come out, but they've all been connected to something we've already known. I mean, The Mandalorian season 1 kind of stood on its own, but once you got into season 2, season 3, they brought in Boba Fett, they brought in Clone Wars characters. It was all connected to that kind of stuff. Book of Boba Fett obviously was Boba Fett, connected to Mandalorian and the original trilogy. Ahsoka connected to Rebels, Clone Wars, a little bit of the prequels bringing Hayden Christensen back. You had Obi-Wan obviously connected to the prequel. So everything's kind of been like, we've either seen these characters or there's some connection to something we've seen before. Whereas The Acolyte is taking place thousands of years before anything we've seen before. New characters, new look at the Jedi, new Sith. All of it just is new. It's new story, it's new characters, it's new setting. And that gets me excited. But going back to the Disney Plus side of everything, their series haven't been the greatest. I haven't hated them except for Book of Boba Fett. I really didn't like that one, but they've all just kind of been a little underwhelming in some way or another, except for Mandalorian season 1 and season 2. But then season 3 was even underwhelming for me. So this feels like if we're not going to have Star Wars in the theaters in the summer, this is the big Star Wars event of the summer that they're trying to get going on Disney Plus. And for me, they have just struck out many times, but this is a brand new story and brand new characters, so they can only impress at this point with what they're going to do with this. So I'm hoping that this is going to be great because it is a different side to everything that we've seen before. It's a different setting, different time period and everything. There shouldn't be any connections to anything we've seen before, but it's Disney Star Wars, so it has me a little bit worried.
And the fact that we're even saying Disney Star Wars as a phrase, that's not a compliment in general.
Yeah, I should have said Disney Plus Star Wars, but yeah.
Yeah, but the phrase Disney Star Wars has been sort of an emerging keyword, if you will. And the fact that I even thought to put Disney Star Wars on the lower third for this project kind of says a little bit about the mixed nature of their success. Like, to me, because I can't say that I've seen every Disney Star Wars series, although I think I may have seen everyone. I loved Mandalorian 1 and 2. Season 3 was not quite as good. Book of Boba Fett was, I think, some good, some bad, but it really didn't have a vision for what it wanted to be. Ahsoka,
exactly.
Ahsoka was just so full of potential, but to me, it missed the mark. I love the actors involved, but it just didn't quite do it for me. So this one, it's an interesting perspective. I didn't realize that you're saying it's thousands of years before.
I think it's supposed to be something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I didn't know.
Very
far removed in the past from everything that's happened.
Yeah, just when I was doing the research for it, it looked like it said something about the High Republic, and I'm not ancient Star Wars history. I'm not as aware of. So so I'm. It is interesting to see, and I like the idea too of power corrupting. Absolutely. So even though the Jedi are good and represent good,
There's also
I
supposed
think
to be
we
like this like murder mystery angle to it. Like I guess
well.
a
So
Jedi gets killed and they don't know who did it, kind of thing.
yeah, this is the one that I kind of chuckled, and this is the meh factor of it for me. When I saw the trailer, and the very first thing that we see is a callback to the Watchmen. A comedian died tonight, but in this case, it's
A
a
Jedi
Jedi
died
died
tonight.
tonight.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh really? We're calling back to we're calling back to the Watchmen, really?
That is
Oh
funny.
God. So to me that doesn't bode well just from the get go. But Star Wars. I'm a sucker for Star Wars. I'm a little bit too old to have seen the original Star Wars in theaters, but I did see Empire Strikes Back and
Nice.
Return of the Jedi when they came out in theaters. I mean, I was 5 years old when Empire came out. So I'm of that generation that saw the original trilogy in theaters, and that was the gold standard of filmmaking for most people my age for a very long time, until the prequels. But then Disney Star Wars, I think, as a streaming service, since they bought it in 2012, I think it's hit and miss. I like that they've put out a lot of stuff, but I don't like that we're getting more quantity than quality.
Yeah.
And this one, it kind of feels like we're getting a little bit of and part of the reason why I say Disney Star Wars as a phrase is there was a statement going around there for a while called that was the Force is female.
Oh, I remember that.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so it was coming from Kathleen Kennedy, who was in charge of Star Wars, and she was George Lucas's producer and Steven Spielberg's producer for the longest time, and so when Disney bought Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy was put in charge, yada yada yada. I'm not a huge fan of her being in charge of the creative side of things, so if this is one that kind of came as part of a mandate for the Force is female, I hate saying that because I love Amandla Stenberg and Dafne Keen. I think they're really talented actresses. I think the premise for this is a really interesting premise and doesn't have anything to do particularly with gender and all that kind of stuff. So to me, this looks like it has more to do with power and power corrupting and the idea of being a Jedi trainee, being a youngling, and washing out of the program, and then being tempted later on, being tempted by the dark side, but you don't really know it's the dark side. So it's coming in the form of self-actualization and go girl and go establish yourself. And so I wonder if that's kind of like the fresh take angle of what this show can be. I don't know if that's what this show is going to be, but I hadn't seen the trailer until you brought it up. So this is all new to me today. So I had heard that they were coming up with something called the Acolyte, but I don't really know anything about this series other than just what I've just said. So is there anything that I'm missing about this series that you've done more research on this than I have?
No, not too much. I mean, like I said, it's supposed to be like a murder mystery type thing with the Sith and
Yeah.
dealing with the Jedi, and I'm not necessarily super excited for this, if I'm being honest, just because of how Disney.
You were the one that brought it up.
I know. I brought it up. I think that I brought it up mostly because I think there's a lot of potential to it. I think it's a lot of potential to be an event. I think there's a lot of potential for it to be something in Star Wars that we've been kind of craving to have for a long time. Which is fresh new storytelling, fresh new characters, fresh new setting, fresh new time period. I think the ingredients, all of it is there to make a great pie. It's just whether or not they're going to overburn it or overcook it or do something to it that ruins it, because it's 8 episodes and Disney Plus has not done the best with the pacing of their episodes, in my opinion. Like it always feels like they've made it either too short, they've rushed to the end, they didn't make it long enough, or it should have just been a movie. There's always something about it where they miscalculate. It doesn't work as a series all the time for me. So there's a part of me that's like, they should have just made this a movie like everything else, but it could end up being a good miniseries. And the thing is, I want to love Star Wars. I want to love Star Wars again. I desperately want to feel the way about Star Wars that I do about the original trilogy. I really do. And this could be the thing, but you know, history has shown the Disney Plus TV series how I usually feel about them by the end, and that's always in the back of my mind about this one too.
You bring up an amazing point, and I love the fact that we have more Star Wars and more Marvel, and all this is coming because of Disney Plus, and all that is great. But why is it that we can't get a Disney Plus Star Wars or Marvel? I'm going to lump them both in the same category in this scenario. Why is it that we can't get a streaming series that is as long as it needs to be?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it the number of episodes does not reflect the story that the storytellers want to do? I don't understand why they're deciding on the number of episodes before they decide on the story that they want to tell. And then as a result, these filmmakers, these storytellers, are having to shoehorn or stretch the story that they're trying to tell into a number of episodes that doesn't reflect what the story they want to tell.
Yeah.
I don't understand why Disney owns all this stuff. They own their own platform. They own all this up top to bottom, and yet they don't have the self-restraint to say, okay, we should be making more episodes to tell this story. We need to expand it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, this story really should have been 6 episodes instead of 8. We don't need to do 2 filler episodes. We can tell this story in 6 episodes.
Yeah.
I think both of those are equally as big a problem for Disney as a whole, as a Disney Plus as a platform. And I don't understand why that's the case when they already have Netflix and HBO as examples of doing short-form storytelling in terms of limited episode counts, 6, 8, 10, 13 episodes, whatever the case may be. We have over a decade of season-long story arcs with stuff like Dexter and The Wire
Mm-hmm.
and Breaking Bad they plan out the entire season ahead of time. So I don't know what it is about Disney being in charge of both Star Wars and Marvel to where even with The Mandalorian, they haven't gotten the number of episodes right.
Yeah.
They've gotten the storytelling right a couple times, but it's never the right number of episodes. So it's so frustrating and confusing to me.
The one exception on Marvel's side is Loki, and the one exception on Star Wars side is Andor.
Yes, yeah. But to me, those are the exceptions that prove the rule.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that being the part of this that I'm a little bit like, it's Disney Star Wars. I'm optimistic. I don't know much about the series creator, Leslye Headland. I don't know much about her, but I am optimistic. I think the effects look good. I like the ideas presented here, other than the whole Watchmen callback. But yeah, so to me, this is one. I don't have a Disney Plus subscription at the moment. I did 6 months ago. This is one, though, that it's not enough to make me to re-sign up just for this. But it is one of those where this, combined with a couple of extra projects or two, could motivate me to re-sign up for Disney Plus. So, to me, this falls in the good category. And if and when I sign up for Disney Plus again, I plan to watch this. How about you?
It falls into the good category on concept. It falls into the good category for the cast. It falls into the good category for the premise, for the setting, for the time period. It falls into the meh category because it's on Disney Plus, and it's a series. And it falls into the bad category because I feel like Disney, the Star Wars side in particular, their instincts have just been way off. And the fact that they made Obi-Wan into a TV show instead of a movie is where I started to realize their instincts are probably way off. Because I think that should have been a movie and it should not have been a series. So we'll see how this one does. Fool me once, shame on you, and fool me twice, and shame on me. And they fooled me about 8 times now, so I'm pretty foolish. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes with this one. Maybe this is the charm.
Yeah, and I just, I love both of those. I love Star Wars, so I'm eternally optimistic because I think Star Wars is, by its nature, optimistic as a franchise. So I am definitely optimistic that this is going to be a good series.